took by public transport was a train trip from London to Edinburgh when I was traveling around the UK last year. I decided to take the train instead of flying because I wanted to enjoy the scenery and have a more relaxed experience. The train ride took around 4.5 hours. It was a long-distance train with comfortable seats, Wi-Fi, and a small cafe on board. I managed to get a window seat, which was perfect because the view along the way was absolutely beautiful. I could see green countryside, small villages, and even parts of the coastline as we reached Scotland. What made the journey interesting was the people I met. A friendly older couple sat next to me, and we chatted for a while about travel and local places to visit. They even recommended some restaurants and attractions in Edinburgh. There was also a short delay halfway through the trip because of some maintenance on the tracks, but the staff made announcements and kept everyone updated, so it wasn't too stressful. Overall, I really enjoyed the journey. It was comfortable, scenic, and surprisingly social. It reminded me that public transport, especially in Europe, can be a great way to not only get from one place to another but also experience the local culture in a more personal and relaxed way. One memorable long-distance trip I took was a road trip from Paris to the south of France, specifically to a small coastal town called Nice. I went there with two of my close friends during our summer holiday. And we decided to travel by car so we could enjoy the scenery and stop wherever we wanted. The entire journey took around 9 hours, but we didn't mind because the views were absolutely stunning. We drove through beautiful countryside, rolling hills, and several charming little towns. Along the way, we played music, shared stories, and took turns driving. We also stopped at a few rest areas to grab snacks and stretch our legs, which made the trip more fun and relaxed. One of the highlights of the journey was when we stopped at a viewpoint overlooking a valley filled with lavender fields. The smell was incredible, and we took tons of photos. It felt like something straight out of a travel magazine. I really enjoyed the whole experience because it felt adventurous and spontaneous. Unlike taking a plane, a road trip gives you the freedom to explore at your own pace. It also brought me closer to my friends, since we spent so much time talking and laughing together. Overall, the trip was unforgettable, and it made me realize how enjoyable long-distance travel can be when the journey itself becomes part of the fun. One memorable flight I had was a long-haul flight from Singapore to London about 2 years ago. I was traveling alone for a short holiday, and it was one of the longest flights I had ever taken, almost 14 hours. I expected it to be exhausting, but surprisingly, it turned out to be a very pleasant experience. Something interesting happened shortly after takeoff. The cabin crew announced that a famous athlete was on board, and many passengers recognized him. Even though people didn't disturb him, there was a sense of excitement throughout the cabin. Later, the crew handed out small souvenirs because it was the airline's anniversary, so every passenger received a little travel kit, which felt like a nice surprise. The flight was also memorable because of the beautiful view. At one point, we flew over mountains covered in snow, and the sky was perfectly clear. I spent a long time just looking out the window, enjoying the sunrise from above the clouds. It was a peaceful moment that made the long journey feel much shorter. Another reason I remember this flight is the person sitting next to me. She was a friendly woman from Germany, and we ended up talking for hours about travel, culture, and food. The conversation made the flight feel much more enjoyable. Overall, this flight stood out because it combined comfort, unexpected surprises, and a meaningful conversation. Instead of feeling tired and bored, I arrived in London feeling refreshed and excited. I booked an early morning flight from Paris. Everything was going smoothly until I arrived at the airport and found out that my flight had been cancelled due to a sudden storm along the Spanish coast. At first, I felt frustrated because I had already arranged my accommodation and made a list of places to visit. The airline staff informed us that the next available flight would be the following morning. Since I didn't want to waste the whole day waiting, I decided to change my plan completely. Instead of going home, I took a train into central Paris and spent the day exploring areas I had never visited before. I ended up walking along the Seine, visiting a small art museum, and trying a new cafe recommended by a local. It wasn't the trip I originally planned, but it turned out to be surprisingly enjoyable. I also managed to get a partial refund from the airline and rebook my ticket for the next day. In the end, I felt that the experience taught me to be flexible. Travel doesn't always go the way you expect, but sometimes last-minute changes can lead to unexpected discoveries. Even though I missed one day in Barcelona, I still had a great weekend and a bonus spontaneous adventure in Paris.